Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of It's Needed, the podcast, where we discuss real issues involving law enforcement and the community. It's your boy, Ryan Tillman, founder of Breaking Barriers United, and I'm joined tonight by my light-skinned wonder from another. Oh, no, it's the Popo. What up, AJ?
Not much, brother. Too blessed to be stressed.
Hey,
that's it.
Yeah, you ain't lying about that, my brother. Too blessed to be stressed, man. How you been, bro?
I can't complain, man. Just, busy. It's still cold here in Ohio. We ain't out in Cali. We ain't got sunshine and palm trees and all of that, but I'm good, man. How about you?
Oh, it's 75 degrees here, and I got a chinchilla jacket on right now. You know, it's cold.
Hey, I have two sweaters on right now. I'm messing with you, all right?
Hey, why you got two sweaters on, though, bro?
Because I got this real ugly sweater on underneath of this Jordan zip up, and I can't wait to show you. I cannot wait to show you.
Okay, so for our listeners, just so y'all know, we decided to do this ugly Christmas sweater contest in light of the Christmas season, right? What better thing to do than to do an ugly Christmas sweater? So me, Mr. Oh No, it's the Popo, and the Savage behind the camera over there, we all got ugly sweaters on. So I can actually see the Savage's sweater right now, and you guys will be able to go onto our Instagram page and see his. But what
Let's
we
hear
want,
it, Billy.
Billy, how you like your son? Give his son over there on the camera. And for those of you guys don't know, he got jingle bells on his sweater. So that was cool. You know, I would probably, if I had to rate it, I'd give you about a 4. Okay. I give him about a 4 out of 10. You know, it's impressive. I like it, but could he came a little bit stronger? I think he could. And so just for you guys, what we're going to do is we're going to put up our pictures of our Christmas sweaters on our Instagram page and our YouTube page. Now, it's up to our listeners to vote who has the ugliest Christmas sweater. Now, AJ keeps saying he does.
That's me.
Nah. Now,
trust me.
As you guys watch this podcast, I want you guys to see this little green thing right here. See this little green thing? Now, this is not the trigger for a bomb on my vest right now. This is not.
What you doing, man?
Hey, this ain't a trigger. I'm just letting y'all know this is not a trigger to an explosive vest. This goes to my sweater.
Kill your side.
So, should we just do the reveal right now? The anticipation is killing me. Let's just do it first. You go first.
Oh, okay. Are you sure you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
You sure?
Hey, I want to see it. Oh, he got the little super. You hear the Superman zip?
Hold up. Let me.
He's sucking it in. This fool got a police vest on. Watch. Oh, hey, got him. Hey, that's pretty good. So, if you guys can't see this right now, my man has a picture of me from my Six Flag days on Instagram or from my Facebook page with a tank top, and he got a picture of the Savage. Oh, hey, that's pretty good, bro. Dang, hey, he might have got me. All right, so
all I'm saying is, hey, we're all some good looking people now.
Okay,
but
do me a favor.
Hey, this was not needed.
Okay,
this was not needed, right?
This wasn't needed tonight.
Hey, Savage, I got nothing.
Okay, so do me a favor. Cue Savage. I'm gonna need you to cue the holiday music. Cue the reveal for my sweater. Here we go. Hold on. Let me do this real quick for my detonator. Before my detonator falls out of my pocket.
Hey, don't hit the button.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Hold on.
Oh my goodness.
Hold on. We a little loud over here. Hold on. We shaking a little bit. Hold on. Let me take this off. Let me drop that right there. Now let me adjust so you can see. Bam. Hold on. Now where my detonator at?
Not the BBU version.
Here goes the BBU version of the ugly Christmas sweater, y'all. With the lights on. Somebody cue them lights. So just for y'all, I'm going to go ahead and let y'all absorb this greatness, this aura. I'm going to let y'all absorb this aura of victory, y'all, because we just won this.
I need y'all to absorb this right here.
Oh man, hey, that's pretty good though, man. Don't be showing that too loud, man. Don't be showing that too close to the camera. So, AJ, Mr. Oh No's the Popo strikes again. So, hey man, my head hurts from laughing so hard. Hey, my head hurts from laughing so hard. Oh my goodness. So that's
Good.
pretty good.
That's
Let's.
good.
Whew.
We did good. Let me see what you're working. Where are you hiding in the back?
I needed a good laugh. We're gonna put Billy's sweater on the background or in the on the Instagram. So let's move into the topics today. So what I do want to talk about, as AJ stuffs his mouth with a donut right now, we'll talk about Mythbusters in a little while. What I do want to talk about is Breaking Barriers United, as you guys know, is geared at bridging the gap between law enforcement and the community. And so one of the biggest issues that out there is, and that I've heard, is that people will say, you know, you guys don't often talk about, all you do is just show positive police stuff or just talk about, you know, pro police stuff. And that's all good and dandy. And, you know, I'm a firm believer in trying to, you know, repair that perception and everything. But the reason Breaking Barriers United was also founded, and the reason we launched this podcast is needed, is because we also wanted to address the wrong that police officers have done as well. And so if something happens in, you know, in life or in the world, where an officer did something wrong, and like we talked about on our last podcast, there was a thorough investigation into it, there was a conviction or whatever it is, and everything, all the facts are out, I don't mind speaking on that. And so recently, I actually posted on my Instagram probably about a week ago, there was a chief of police in Florida who was arrested for falsely arresting, or having some of his guys falsely arrest black people. And that's just to be real with it, falsely arrest black people. And when all the facts were said and everything came out, essentially they admitted to doing it. They were saying that they were trying to keep the streets clean, and they actually went out and made I think a publication and said, you know what, our stats are down, our crime is down, but they were doing it immorally, and they were just doing it because they allowed this power sometimes, or the thought of power, to get to their head. And unfortunately, this was a chief of police, everybody. This was somebody who was put in charge of a whole entire organization, and that's who's leading this organization. So if that's who's leading this organization, the unfortunate part is, you know, what could come behind that. So the good news is that they were all prosecuted. They were all convicted of their charges. And I know the chief, I think, is facing 3 years in prison, and I don't know what the other two officers got, but I'm all for that.
One got a year, and the other two got 27 months.
And the sad part about that is I don't even know if that punishment that they got, or that sentence that they got, is ever going to repair the time lost by those guys that they falsely arrested, or even the damage. Think about what we're doing right now. We're trying to repair the perception of law enforcement in the community. That's what we're trying to do, right, AJ? And that just sets us back. We are in 2018. We're in 2018, and we are still dealing with people that are falsely arresting people based on the color of their skin. That's a problem. Yeah. That is a problem, and that sets us back decades. You know what I mean?
100%. One of the officers actually testified against the chief, and said that the chief specifically told them to go out and find young men of color to falsely arrest. That way they could keep their 100% burglary success rate up, right? Like the chief prided himself that every burglary in the city or town that he worked in, every burglary was solved. Like they always had like an arrestee, and that was wise because he instructed his officers to go out and arrest young men of color and frame them for these burglaries.
That's crazy. And so, and it only goes to, so, you know, I've heard it on both sides. You know, being an officer, you hear some of the officers that are like, you know, no, we do a good job, and the community's out of their mind when they're talking about we're not doing this, and this doesn't happen. Well, this is prime example that it happens. This is proof that stuff like that happens, and that's why we exist. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Something that I'm always very cautious to say, whether I'm speaking at like a high school or a college, or just speaking to civilians while I'm in my cruiser, is there's always a group of people who feel like racism just doesn't exist, right? Like no matter what they see, no matter what the facts of the circumstances, they're just like, you know what, like racism is an issue. And then there's another group, and neither one of these is the majority by any means, but there's another group who feels that everything that happens to them has happened to them because of their race. And this is a perfect example, right? So for the young men and women of color, please don't take this story and think that every police officer out there is racist, because they're not, and then for every police officer or person that's not of color, please wake up and realize that racism is an issue in the United States of America and an issue that needs to be rectified.
Wow. You couldn't say any better. And, I'm so glad that, I can get on a podcast with a brother in Christ and talk about this and see it from an untainted view and realize that there is wrong on both sides. And we have to do better. We have to do better. Not only do we have to do better as police officers, but we have to do better as a people. We have to do better as a people. That's the only way we're going to solve these problems, is we have to do better as a people. There was another situation that you brought up, AJ, too. Why don't you get into as far as the conviction that was rendered for another situation that happened?
Yeah, so this was the female officer in Dallas who shot the young man in his own apartment, and she said that it was because she worked a late shift and she thought that she was walking into her own apartment and she thought that he was a burglar or someone who was trying to cause harm, and she discharged her weapon in the doorway and killed him in his own home. And the frustrating part for this is she said that she felt she was walking into her own apartment, which whatever. She did live directly above. So like the next floor up, above the victim. So, one could assume like, I could kind of see that. She said she was tired, but when it comes down to the nitty gritty, like you took a man's life and like, you need to be held accountable for that. Right. Like being tired isn't an excuse, right? Like people drive tired and get into a car crash and kill people all the time. Like they need to be held accountable the same way that she needs to be held accountable. And she's out on bond right now.
It's scary too, because you're right, man. Like just because you're tired doesn't give you an excuse to take a man's life in his own home. You know what I mean? Like that'd be like somebody walking in my house right now with my family because they're tired and they shoot somebody and be like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm tired. Like it's terrible because and I get it. Yeah, granted, her apartment was above or whatever, but it's no excuse. And, you can't even live in your own home sometimes without having a sense of danger. You know what I mean? And on the flip side of that is, imagine as a police officer, we go there and let's say she wasn't a police officer. Let's say she wasn't a police officer. Let's say it was a random person that walked into somebody's house and shot them and killed them. And their statement to the officer was, I was tired. Do you think that police officers, if we're being real here, do you think that police officers would honestly say like, oh, you know what? Maybe she was tired. The first thing that's going to come to her mind was, oh, that's what they all say. That's just like when you find drugs in somebody else's pocket and they say, these aren't my pants.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we can't treat her any different because she's a police officer. Granted, she might have been a little bit tired, but that's not an excuse. We wouldn't treat anybody else any differently. So why treat that situation any differently?
Absolutely. And it's extremely frustrating for me, like to watch this young man's family on the news crying and mourning his loss. And then for them to know and for everyone else to know that this trial will go on for a minimum of a year. So they may not have closure until a year from now. And I get that part because myself, I was involved in a critical incident and my process took a year and there's a reason it takes that long. They have to dig deep and do some investigating, but it's just an extremely frustrating situation. But at the end of the day, if you ask me, like you took someone's life and you need to be held accountable for that, tired or not.
Yeah, it sucks. And, I pray that I'm never in a situation where, something like that happens, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's just a tough situation, a loss of life. Like the last podcast I gave I wanted to do like I don't want to call it a shout out because it's not a shout out, but I wanted to pay honor to those that lost their lives in the Thousand Oaks shooting, the officer that lost his life on the motorcycle, the firefighters that were fighting the fires. And it's the same thing. I do want to, give some type of honor and respect to that guy that lost his life in his own apartment, because just because he's a civilian doesn't mean he's any less of a person just because Absolutely. I have a police officer or just because I have a badge on. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, oh man. So the reason we talk about these current events, guys, is because again, we wouldn't be doing our job if we weren't talking about real issues that exist on a day-to-day basis. For far too long, there's been too many people that are on the far left or on the far right, and the far left can't see the far right, and the far right can't see the far left. There's nobody that's in the middle. And so that's why we exist today, is to be that bridge, be that line in the middle that can see both sides. And that's why I love coming on this podcast. That's why I feel like it's therapy for me, and the same thing for you, because that's the only place where we're going to start to repair things. So
yeah, it's got to start somewhere.
Man, got to start somewhere. So let's move forward. So the topic of today's discussion, guys, this is actually going to be a fun one, a really fun one. And we're going to be talking about the academy, the Police Officer Academy. And the reason this is a fun one is because there's a lot that can be learned about the academy, because a lot of times the notion is that, police officers don't have enough training. We don't receive this. We don't receive that. It's been said that, police officers have as much training as hairdressers do.
Oh, snap.
That just saying, somebody said it, you know what I mean? But last time I checked, I went to a 6-month training academy that was very, very tough, stringent. I got gassed, I got pepper sprayed, I got tased. I watched people go home because they couldn't pass tests. And then after I graduated, I had to go through a 6-month field training program to learn how to be a police officer in real life, do real police work, mess with real people. And then after all that was said and done, I still have to do training every 3 months on something. As a matter of fact, I got training on Friday. So there's so much training that goes into law enforcement that people don't realize. And I thought, what better topic than to talk about the academy? And on top of that, we have a lot of our listeners, shout out to our listeners out there, but we have a lot of listeners that are trying to prepare to go into a profession of law enforcement. So I thought it'd be good to talk about the academy, talk about some things to do to prepare for the academy. And so, what would you say, AJ, is one of the biggest purposes of doing the academy?
Oh my goodness. Listen, so the academy, I actually went through 2 academies. My most recent academy is mandated to work for the department that I work for. Like, in order to work for this department, you have to go through their police academy. They were both 6 months, and you could easily go through a year-long academy and still not know enough to be a police officer. I mean, there's so much thrown your way. So, you just have to, right? Like, you have to learn how to legally arrest someone. You have to know your rights, their rights. You have to know how to defend yourself. You have to know how to defend others. You have to know how to shoot, when to shoot, when not to shoot, backdrops. It's nonstop. And like yourself, I was sprayed and tased, and I yelled like a little girl when I was tased. So it's.
And you know what's funny is if you think about it. So think about somebody like me, and probably you. I had no military experience. You take somebody that's a regular average Joe citizen. I play college football, and you throw him into a 6-month police academy where now I have to learn how to be a police officer. It is a difficult task. Now, they do some amazing work in these academies, because the mere fact that they can go out and create and train new police officers to patrol our streets is phenomenal, because that's hard to do. And if you think about it, crime isn't going down. If anything, crime is going up. So we're living in a society where crime is going up in a sense, and we don't have enough officers to police the streets. And so you're battling on one end, trying to get more officers to patrol the streets, but at the same time, we need quality officers to patrol the streets. And so for these guys to be able to go in academies, really do some good academies, do some good training, is phenomenal work. Yeah,
for sure.
And so like AJ kind of mentioned this. So my academy was 6 months long. One of the biggest things that I learned in the academy. So when you go, now they're getting away from stress academies in California, some places. If you ask me, I don't really necessarily agree with that wholeheartedly. And there's a good reason behind that. And what I mean by this is what a stress academy is. So a stress academy is where you go to the academy and they just put you through intense stress environments. They yell at you. They tell you you're nothing. They critique everything. I remember the first day standing in formation, and they were like, why is your belt on backwards? And I was like, what you mean, why is my belt on backwards? So I guess there's a certain way, at the time I know, but there's a certain way to put your belt on. So they made me take my belt off and hold my belt over my head for like 10 minutes. And then like my arms started feeling heavy, and then I'm looking around nervous, like, man, oh man. And then so like my arms start to drop, and I'm like, oh Lord, please don't let them see this belt drop. So, but at the time, I'm thinking like, man, this is so stupid. Like, why would you have me hold my belt up? Like something so small, or strings. Why do you got a string on your uniform? I'm like, what is a string? And it's like the little lint or whatever, the smallest thing. And they're like, details. You got to pay attention to the details. So AJ, tell me why details are important in law enforcement.
Oh my goodness, details are important because we just had a female officer who claimed that she was too tired and went to the wrong address and took a life, right? Like details matter. Like you need to understand that, you know, if you live on the third floor, you live in apartment 301, not 201, right? You need to understand when you pull somebody over for not having a rear view mirror, that's not a real law and that you just made that up. Like details are important because we have the opportunity to not only take someone's freedom, but take someone's life. And we need to know when to properly do both of those.
Exactly. Exactly. And so when I look back at it and they're yelling at me because a yarn is on my shirt, my belt is on backwards, my boots aren't shined enough, I'm like, man, this is the stupidest thing ever. But then now I focus on the details. I focus on looking at, you know, a report that may have something missing. I notice the things that other people may not catch because they trained us to focus on the details. So when you start talking about getting away from a stress academy, I don't know how much benefit that's going to do, because the last place you want somebody to experience stress for the first time is on the streets when it really matters.
Exactly. You can't put someone through a stressless academy in order to prepare them for one of the most stressful jobs. Like that don't make no sense to me.
Mm-hmm. So another thing that was impressive about the academy is I never forget the first 2 weeks of the academy, or the first week. So mind you, the first week when I started the academy, my wife was pregnant, obviously. I started the academy on a Monday. My baby was born on Friday or Saturday morning, technically. So, you know, me thinking like, oh man, they're going to be all happy. You know, they're going to be like, oh, congratulations, Ryan. You got a baby, yada, yada, yada. Negative. I was in the hospital writing memos for the academy as my baby's laying next to me. And I'm a first time dad. So my best friend comes and picks up my memos for me and drops them off just so I can get it done. And so the funniest part about it though, is I show up on Monday thinking like, oh yeah, like, well, first of all, I didn't think I was going to have to show up on Monday. I thought, you know, oh, they're going to give me a little time, bond with my baby. Negative. So I show up on Monday. Wasn't really happy about that. When I show up on Monday, I'm thinking like, oh yeah, they're going to congratulate me. They may even have a card for your boy. They might even, you know, have a Hallmark card waiting for me. So as I'm running, like as I run in, they're like yelling at me like, hey, where's your baton at? And then they were like, you think we care? You just had a baby? I was like, oh, y'all cold as ice up here. I was like, sheesh. I was like, y'all don't care? And so I never forget running through the parking lot at the end of the day. And there was a deputy. I won't name his name, but I love this deputy. He was like, Tillman. I'm like, oh man, what now? And I don't turn back and look. I don't dare look at him. He's like, congratulations. I was like, oh, he might have a heart after all.
You're like, thank you.
Thank you. Can I tell you thank you?
Can I give you the picture now or not?
Oh man. But again, even something like that, me thinking that these people are heartless, there's reason behind it. The reason for it is because, do you think that every single person I deal with on the street cares about who I am? Do you think that there's people that care that I have a family? Do you think that people care about not throwing the N-word out about me? So if they don't care about me, I have to learn how to deal with people that don't care about who I am. And they're 100%. Teaching me a lesson without me even realizing it, man. And that's why I think the Stress Academy is so, so important.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So our first week of the academy is all bad. I mean, you walk in, you know, you got your suit on. You're like, oh, you know, I just got this job. I want it. Oh, it's a wrap. The moment you step in them doors, you got two people on each side screaming at you. You got to carry everything with your left hand or your non-gun hand. I mean, you have to run everywhere you go. Like, I mean, it's crazy. It's chaos. But the cool part about that is you see the ones who can't handle stress, they drop out. They're like, I can't handle this.
So we drop people all the time.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I want to say my academy, we had about 10, maybe we had about 10 drop out. And I think we started like 50 or 60, but but the cool part about that is if you can't handle artificial stress, now how are you going to handle the real thing, right? So it's kind of cool to see them like, I respect them. I respect anybody who steps foot in the police academy, feels that artificial stress and says, you know what, this ain't for me. I'm not about this life.
That takes a big move.
Oh, it does. It does. Absolutely. You have to applaud them because ultimately you could be saving someone's life, whether it's your own, a civilian's, your freedom, someone else's freedom. Like I applaud people for that. Like, you know, you'll have some people out there who kind of clown them like, oh, they couldn't take it. I'm not like, I applaud you for that. Like we need more of that.
Man, everything in that academy has a purpose. Everything. And man, there was something I remember first day. So we, when I was going to the academy, the first day they made us go, you don't bring your lunch the first day. And there's some people are probably mad I'm throwing out secrets right now, but first day we didn't bring our lunch. And so I'm thinking like, oh shoot, man, like, okay, they're going to feed us and stuff. They're going to give us like a nice little lunch, some hamburgers, some hot dogs. They're going to be grilling over there. I got beans, greens, potatoes, yams. I'm thinking like, oh yeah, it's about to go down. You name it. Negative, man. We went to the commissary because, where my academy was, it was attached to a jail, a county jail.
Oh,
went straight to the commissary, man. They hit us with the worst food in that commissary. And the funniest part about it is I'll never forget this, man. I remember dropping a raisin on the ground. And I was thinking like, man, I was like, should I just take this and just take this raisin off the ground and eat it before they notice it? Or should I wait for them to notice it? I never forget, bro. I reached down, I put that raisin in my mouth, bro. You know how you have that smile, bro, where you just eat somebody's bad food? Like, you go to a party and somebody makes something and then they stand it in your face. Like, how does it taste? But it really don't taste that good. But you got to give the illusion like, oh, this tastes good. That's the type of face I had, bro. Like, it's good. It's good. Oh, bro, man. I put that raisin in my mouth, bro. I took the biggest, deepest gulp, dog. I was like, please don't let this raisin come up, bro. Because I'm going to look like a fool, bro. So, that mess was terrible, bro. But again, there's a reason. There is a reason for everything, man. And you can't have, and the reason for that is there's been so many times where I've had somebody in the back of my car pee, poop. We know you know all about the pee stories.
We bring up old stuff.
Yeah, we bring up old stuff. If y'all don't know what I'm talking about, go listen to episode 2. But we've had people pee, poop. I've had people urinate. Or that's the same thing. My bad, y'all. I've had people throw up in the backseat of my car. And for me, vomit will do it for me. Like, I'm pretty good with the other stuff. And that don't really sound right, but I'm pretty good with the other stuff. If somebody does the other stuff, they urinate or they poop in my car, okay, it sucks, it stinks, roll down the windows, but yeah, whatever. But if somebody vomits in the backseat of my car, it's gonna be a long night, bro. I'm about to call all my back-end officers like, hey, I'm gonna need y'all to come take this over, man. Take the rest of this dude, because it's a wrap.
There is no worse feeling when your prisoner is in the backseat of the cruiser and goes, I gotta pee, or I'm gonna throw up. And you're just like, you better not. Really gotta pee? And the next thing you hear is splat. You're like, oh, betrayal.
Bro, I be asking my prisoners. I ask my prisoners, like, if they say they like feeling sick, they probably get tired of me because I'm like a record on repeat. I'd be like, you feeling good back there? You feeling good back there? Like every 2 minutes, you feeling good back there? You good? You good? And then I'm like, you better not throw up in my car. You better not throw up in my car. Yeah. So
trying to make it out the window.
But again, even as funny as it is, me eating that raisin off that ground just reminds me, in this job, you're going to deal with some dirty stuff. So, hey, I need your funniest academy story right now. I don't think it's funnier than mine, but I want to hear your funniest academy story.
Oh my goodness. All right. So let me set this up for you. Okay. So this is me still not fully understanding not only the police culture, but any other culture outside of the inner city. Okay. So keep that in mind when I tell you this story. All right. So before we started the academy, I went to like a session that would inform you on what to expect for the academy. Right. So I'm in this session and they're like, hey guys, like, just so you know, you're going to be showering here. And they give you a tour of the academy. Yeah. And the shower is just like a big open room with, 15 shower heads. Right. So he's like, keep in mind, there's going to be roughly 50 to 60 of you. And you're going to have to shower in this room and you're going to be rushed. So, kind of prepare yourself, like have your toiletries ready, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, bet, I ain't worried about it. Right. Yeah. Right. this is gonna be it's finna be a breeze,
Finna
right?
be a
Like I'm not worried
breeze.
about this academy. So I show up to the academy. All heck is breaking loose. They're screaming at us. I'm dripping sweat. They PT us. We're doing push-up, sit-ups. So they're like, all right, you guys have 15 minutes to shower and be in your Class A's. And for those of you who don't know, a Class A uniform is like the formal tie, shiny badge, all that shiny stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got like 15 minutes. So in my head, I'm like, all right, 15 minutes. There's 50 of us. That ain't a lot of time, right? So I'm in my locker trying to figure out the combination because they make sure you have a combination lock, not a key lock, right? To make things even worse on you. So I'm going through my lock. I finally get it after failing a couple times. I grab some stuff to wash up with, my soap and whatnot. And I run to the shower and now there's a line, right? And we're all just kind of standing there and, you know, holding your towel and you got your stuff and just waiting to get in the shower, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm kind of like looking around and I'm like, hold on. I look at the person in front of me. I look at the person behind me. I was the only one in the academy with a wash rag, right? So I got a wash rag in one hand and a bar of soap in the other hand. And I'm looking around
I'm about to get clean.
I want to be that guy, but you know, I'm looking around like, hold on. He ain't got a wash rag. He ain't got a wash rag. Hey, no lie. I literally bent down, dropped the wash rag on the ground, bent back up. It was there the whole academy. Like I'd never claimed that. I was like, I don't know whose wash rag.
I don't know whose is it. Are you serious, bro?
Hey, listen. I never knew that people washed up without using washcloths. Like that's so foreign to me. Like I was like, how do y'all get cleaner? Like we just use the soap in our hands. I'm like, y'all dirty. Nasty. Like
y'all dirty. Yeah. Like, AJ, so don't let AJ lie to y'all and tell y'all that he's from the inner city. AJ bougie. AJ come from the burbs. That's how they do it in the burbs, y'all. Don't ever let him tell y'all that he's from the inner city anymore, y'all. If he do, I'm calling him on it.
Busted.
Got him. So, hey, you ready for this story, bro?
Let's hear it.
Oh, dog, you might want to put your coffee down because you about to laugh on this one. And Savage, get ready. I don't know if I've ever told you this. All right, so there was a time, man. I got to set the stage, y'all. So,
I'm already laughing.
know, they be at the academy, man. Like they pay attention to details. And so one day, I'm running to class. You know, we were already in class session, so everybody was in class. I went to go use the head, which the head, for those of you guys that don't know, the head is the bathroom. So I went to go use the bathroom. I'm running back to class, and on our route that we run to the bathroom, like you have to pass the tax staff's office, and so usually their door is open, so they can see when you run and run out. So I'm running. As I pass the tax staff office, I just hear one of my TAC officers that say, Ryan, and I'm like, or Tillman. I'm like, what, man? So I stop. I'm like, and it was a female. I was like, ma'am, yes, ma'am. And because that's what you got to say. And she's like, quit taking pictures of yourself. So I'm thinking like, what the heck is she talking about? Like, quit taking. She was like, keep going. I'm like, okay. So then I get to the class, and in class, you're a little bit more relaxed because they're not in there. So I'm thinking like, man, like now I'm sweating, bro. Now I'm like, okay. She just didn't say that for no reason. Like nothing at the academy happens just by random chance. Like, so I'm thinking like, what the heck is she talking about? So I'm thinking like, oh, you know what? I was like, she probably went on my Facebook page and saw some pictures. So me instantly, now for those of you guys that don't know me that well, before I got into law enforcement, I did a quick stint of modeling. So on the Facebook page, I had some modeling pictures. So in my mind, see, AJ already started to start busting. You already know where this is going. So in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh snaps! Like she probably got onto my Facebook page. So I'm in the class texting my wife like, hey babe, go to my Facebook account and shut everything down, wipe it all, clean everything, like get it all, get rid of everything. I don't care, wipe it all, lock it down. So she's like, okay, babe, okay. So then I hit her back at lunchtime, like, babe, do you good? She's like, we good, babe. I locked everything down. I'm like, cool, we good. So in my mind, I'm still a little nervous. I'm like, man, I'm gonna hear about this again. So I don't hear about nothing, bro. I'm like, okay, we good. So that day goes by, I don't hear nothing. The day goes by, I don't hear it. Like 2 weeks goes by. So in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm solid. Like she probably was just talking about something random. I was just being paranoid, and she was just on one that day. So we're in the middle of the quad one day, in the middle of the quad, which is for some agencies is called the grinder. That's where like they yell at you, you stand in formation, they tell you you're nothing, all this other stuff. So I'm standing in the middle of the quad one day, and one of the tax staff comes out and he's like, so today we're going to talk about internet security. And in my mind, I immediately knew. I was like, oh, snaps.
No.
Here it comes. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I'm like, oh shoot, okay. Prepare yourself, Ryan, prepare yourself. So he's like, can anybody in here tell me the importance of having internet security? So somebody's like, they need to lock it down, you know, make sure that all your stuff is private. He's like, exactly. We want to make sure our stuff is private. We do a profession that, you know, we don't want people knowing who we are, yada, yada, yada. So then he goes on to say, is there anybody in here that has anything that's inappropriate on any social media sites? So now I'm at a dilemma in my mind. I'm like, okay, Ryan, this is go time. This is where.
I mean, what kind of modeling was you doing?
I wasn't doing that. I wasn't doing modeling like that, but I have my shirt off in a couple of pictures. I was probably in some compression shorts, you know. I probably got some people out there Googling like, oh, let me go look at this dude. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, man, I was like, this is go time. Do I step up and do what they call me to do in this profession, which is be honest and have integrity, or do I just let this thing ride out? So I'm like, but me being strategic and being honest and having integrity, I'm like, I'm gonna get ahead of this, baby. I'm gonna get ahead of this. So I put my hand up. And he's like, oh, well, what do you know? Tillman, what do you have? Now, I think I threw him a curveball because I don't think he was expecting me to fess up and raise my hand. Yeah. He wasn't prepared for that. He was kind of catch me, but I'm always a step ahead. Always. So I put my hand up. I'm like, yeah. He was like, Tillman, what do you have? I was like, and I'm nervous as ever. I'm like, sir, ma'am, I used to before, and I'm not speaking clear English. I'm like, I used to before I got into the police work. I used to do talking like the water boy from talking like Adam Sandler from the water boy. Yeah, talking like Bobby Boucher. Sir, I used to, but before I got into law enforcement, I used to model. What? You used to model? So I'm like, yes, sir. I used to model. So he's like, whoa. So then he's like, well, class, wouldn't you guys like to know what Tillman is talking about? I'm like, so me being a step ahead of him, I know where this is going. He's like, why don't you guys all take a run at the gas house and find out what we're talking about? So me, again, being a step ahead of these cats, I'm like, oh, I know what y'all did. Y'all probably put some pictures up in there of me. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm like, again, think quickly, right? That's what you got to do as a police officer. Think quickly. So what I do, I go to my best boys in the class. I'm like, there's two of my homeboys. I'm like, hey, y'all, this is what's about to happen, bro. We about to run over there right now. And there's about to be pictures up of me right now. So I'm going to need y'all to grab all of them as fast as you can. I don't want you showing none of them in this class. Grab as many of them as you can, dog. They're like, all right, bet. So we run over to the gas house, bro. And sure enough, bro, I'll run up in there. I'm first in line. I make sure I'm first in line. And I make sure my boys are right behind me. I run up in there, bro. I see pictures of me like bending over with my head on the face. I see the ones with my shirt off and the sweat all on me and stuff like that. So I'm like a ninja, bro. I'm grabbing papers everywhere, like picking them up. So then we get back in formation, bro. And so one of our TAC officers is like, whoa, so what do we know? What do we find over there? And so he calls my boy. He's like, I won't say his name, but he's like, so, hey, my man, what do you have over there? And my boy is like, sir, it's Tillman's picture. He's like, it's not Tillman's picture. You got Tillman's washboard abs, don't you? I was like, oh, okay. So then I was like, so he was like, so why don't all of you guys get down right now and we're going to do 25 motivational push-ups on Tillman's washboard abs. I was like, oh. So we started doing push-ups, bro. As soon as it was over, I went to my boys and said, y'all, give me those papers, bro. Give them to me now. I went and stuck them in the trash can before everybody got to look at them, bro. And then the craziest part about it is a year later, I found out that there might have still been one up in the locker room or something like that. Like a year later, I was like, oh, y'all played your boy. Yes. Bro, I was hurt, bro. Then they scared me. They're like, oh, we told your department. They're ashamed of you and all this other stuff. And so, I'm like nervous thinking that night. I'm thinking like, babe, I might lose my job. Like, oh, man, I'm going to get fired. Yeah, straight up. And I found out after the fact, like my people at my job were cracking up, bro. So then they started calling me, what did they start calling me? Glamour shot. They start calling me the glamour shot, bro. So man, that was one of the most Oh, terrible experience, but most funniest experience I ever had at the academy, man.
So the question is, are the pictures still out there?
Negative, negative. We wiped those a long time ago. See, the Savage is actually doing a search right now as we speak, and he's saying, nope, can't find them. Negative.
Hey, Savage, I'm gonna need you to work your magic.
No,
I'm gonna need
we
you to
not.
find one, and I'm gonna need you to put it right here.
We not working.
Put it
No,
right there for me.
we not working. No magic. We not doing none of that. It's that Billy shaking his head like, yeah, we doing that.
Oh, we're finding that.
Oh man. So, but just so you guys, I want to bring this back, man. Like for those of you guys that are learning or thinking about going to the academy, want to go into law enforcement, the academy sucks. It is what it is. It sucks. But, you know what? It's one of the things that it's a need. And I honestly can say, like, I had so much fun at the end of it, like looking back, like it's a fun that I never want to experience again. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it's a fun that, but I don't never want to do it again. And it's a necessary. And a lot of times, you know, we can't in the academy, it is impossible to identify a crooked cop in the academy. You'll get guys that wash out. You'll do, but I can tell you the academy does their very best at trying to wash those guys out early on. That's why they talk about things like integrity. That's why they talk about things about honesty. That's why I rose my hand, even though, because I knew, you know what I mean? So that's why I rose my hand with the honest and, you know, say, yeah, I did have something on there that I probably shouldn't have on there, because that's what they're looking for. And guys that don't do that, guys that are dishonest in the academy and things like that, sometimes they do end up turning out to be crooked. But there's no easy fix. There's no one size fits all a way to wash out crooked cops. It's just impossible.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And for those of you who are thinking about maybe joining a police academy or join law enforcement, I just went through some numbers at y'all. I actually looked these up about an hour before we started recording. Last year, there were 137 police officers who were killed in line of duty. 45 of those were killed by gunfire. To date, as of today, 137 officers have been killed in line of duty, and 49 have been killed by gunfire. And I don't say that to discourage you. I say that to let you know, like, what type of field you're going to be getting into. And as long as your heart is in the right place, and as long as you know why you're going to get into law enforcement, then those numbers shouldn't mean anything to you, but just know what you're getting into.
Yes. And take the training seriously. You know, one of the questions I always get is, how can I prepare for the academy? How can I prepare for this profession? The first and foremost thing is you got to prepare your mind for this profession. Mm-hmm. There's no simple way to do that. But you have to, in your mind, and especially law enforcement is getting more difficult now, because it's getting more difficult to do, because there's, on one end, I have to treat everybody, every person with respect, which is easy. That's easy for me. That comes natural for me. But at the same time, I can't allow that to cloud my vision to see if I'm dealing with somebody that's trying to take my life or the life of somebody else.
Yeah.
And so you, the person that's getting into this profession, have to look at that and think about, can you do that? Everything else that you're going to go through is easy. The physical fitness, yeah, it may be tough for some of you guys. Keep pushing. You know, you guys may say, hey, you know what, I'm not big enough, or I'm not slim enough, or I'm not strong enough. You can do it. That's all a decision you just got to make up in your mind. Like, that's easy. Yeah, it may seem tough for you, but you know what? That's what law enforcement want. We want the tough ones. We want the ones that can't be broken. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's an easy thing. The tough decisions are the one that, hey, can you prepare yourself to mentally do this job? Now, I'm not trying to scare you out of this profession, but I'm trying to scare you out of this profession, because if the answer for you right now is like, no, I can't do that, then don't try to make it to the academy. Don't try to make it to your first day of patrol and say, you know what? I can't do this, because by that time it may be too late, and you might get yourself and you might get somebody else hurt.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't have said it better.
So, you know, that was, oh man, the academy is so much fun. I got so many different stories I can go into.
Oh man,
you know, for days, man. But you know, one of the common things we get on this podcast, the common questions we get is, how do we get into it? You know, go find an agency that you want to work for, and the key word is want to work for. Don't just throw a job application out there because you need a job. I get it. This ain't just a job. This is a career.
Nah. Not only that, but hey, I'm telling you right now, and there's no stats that I know of that can prove this, but there's also no other job that is as scrutinized as ours. So don't just put your app in because you know how much we make, or you see the benefits, or you think it's cool because you want to drive fast and carry a gun and all of that. Like, hey, this ain't for you. This is not for you if that's the route you want to get into it.
So that's a good lead in real quick, AJ. So we have a listener out there of our podcast, a fan of our podcast, and I want to again. Well, actually, before we go, this podcast is brought to you by the one and only Breaking Barriers United. We really appreciate your support in supporting this It's Needed podcast. AJ and I truly appreciate you guys. We look forward to it, guys. We look forward to diving into real topics, and when we get messages from you guys, when we get feedback from you guys, it truly hits home, and it truly makes me realize like we're doing the right thing for you guys. And so thank you to all those. And the next person, the guy I'm about to talk about, he's actually I don't know if he wants me to use his name, so I won't use his name. Actually, I'll use his name, Dylan. Dylan, what's up, Dylan? Dylan, what up? Shout out to you, my man. So Dylan is a college student right now. Dylan actually wanted to do an interview, you and I, but for the sake of time, we can't go through all of Dylan's interview questions. So I looked through them, and I'm going to call Dylan at a separate time to talk to him. He's actually interested in getting into the profession of law enforcement, but he sent me a list of 8 questions, and one of the questions he had, which I think is very paralleled with what we're talking about today, is this: is there any advice you can give to someone like myself who is looking to go into this line of work? Go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, you have to have heart. You have to have heart going into this job. Like, a lot of people say it's a thankless job. I won't go that far. But we definitely go through a lot of things and see a lot of things that people just shouldn't see. And we see it a lot. So, just know that it's not what you see on TV. A lot of people go into law enforcement thinking like it's going to be cool. I get to carry a gun. I get to drive a car fast, and I have this authority and whatnot. But like, people don't take in consideration, like, we see dead bodies on a weekly basis, and people spit on us, and people want to kill us just for putting this uniform on. So with that said, as long as you are getting into the profession for the right reason, none of those things will matter, right? Like, I know yourself, Ryan, like, you got into the profession for the right reason. So when people call you the N-word, when people, clown you or make fun of you for going out into the community and dancing or doing what you do, like, it doesn't faze you, because what you're doing is more important than that negativity. So somebody once told me, find a job that you love and you'll never work a day in your life. If you feel like you will genuinely love being a police officer for all the right reasons, don't worry about the rest. Keep your chin up, go through the academy, soak up everything that you can, latch onto a senior officer who's respected and that is doing the right things, learn from him or her as much as you can, and get out there and get after it.
100%. And it goes a lot right along with what AJ's saying, is find your why. Find your why. Why do you want to do this? Why do you do this? You know what I mean? Because when you find your why, then you're going to realize, this is why I do my job. This is why I do this career. If your why is for the wrong reasons, then you want to reevaluate yourself. And I urge you, go get an opinion from somebody. Ask somebody, hey, what do you think I would be like in this profession? Am I somebody that you would think I would be good in this profession? And they'll be honest with you if they're really your friend. Because if they are not going to be honest with you, that's not somebody who you want to talk to.
Oh, 100%. And do a ride along, and don't do a ride along at a precinct or in an area that you ain't about to get in or nothing. Like, do a ride along where you are scared, like, hey, it might go down, because the reality of policing is you never know like what's going to happen. You could work in the nicest area in the country and be involved in a shootout your first day. Like, that's just the belly of the beast, right? Like, that's the reality of the situation. So find a rough area and do a ride along. And if you get a bad gut feeling, maybe it's not for you, or you might see it and you might see a need in the community that you can help by being a police officer, and you might latch on to that and be like, you know what, I'm gonna do this.
And when you can do that, you're going to love this career. I promise you. If you can do all that, if you can pass those tests, you're going to love this profession. I tell people all the time, I love my day job. I love my day job. There's so many different things you can do, so many different assignments you can do, so many impacts you make. And I think that's actually another topic we have to have on another date, is what are some of the most valuable impacts that we've had on people?
Oh my goodness.
Because I got stories for days, and I'm sure you do, AJ. But, once you pass all those tests, this is a great job, a wonderful, I don't even want to call it a job, it's a career. I always tell people, this is not a job, this is a calling. You know what I mean? This
100%.
is something you got to be called to do, because, you know, there is a lot of sacrifice, not only sacrificing your own life, sacrificing your time, sacrificing birthdays, sacrificing holidays, you name it, there's sacrifice, but it is worth it. And if you do it the right way. And the last thing I'll say, yeah, just like the song.
I work Christmas, Thanksgiving,
everything. Seriously,
I work them all.
Seriously, and you know what? And if the one last thing somebody told me is the type of person you are. It's kind of like money. I don't know if you ever heard this before, AJ, but somebody says when you get a lot of money, it's either gonna amplify you. If you whatever kind of person you are, you're gonna just become that much more of that type of person. So if you are a bad guy and nobody likes you and you're stingy, you're just going to become that much more of a bad guy. If you're a great person, you're going to become that much more of a great person. It's almost the same thing with this profession. If you are a bad person, it's going to make you a worse person, because you get exposed to things that you shouldn't be exposed to. You get exposed to money, drugs, all types of things that you shouldn't be exposed to. And if you're already bad, when that temptation creeps in, it's a wrap. But if you're a great 100%. Guy, and for me, and I'm not saying I'm a great guy, but I will say I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and Jesus knows my heart, and I often talk about it. The Lord is the one that helps me and direct my paths and directs my footsteps in this job to help me make those right decisions. I know I can't do this by myself, but He's the one that helps that. So think about the type of person you are.
Yeah,
be honest with yourself.
Honest, brutally honest. Listen, I always tell people, no matter where I'm at, there's 4.5 reasons why people become police officers. The first reason is why people should really want to be police officers is because you want to help people. Boom. That's number one, right? The second reason why people become police officers is because it's a job that you could get without a college degree in certain areas, and you can make a decent amount of money. The third reason is you have the Napoleon complex, right? Like you were picked on, you want a badge, you want to go out here, you want to flex on people and show them your authority. The fourth is generational, right? Like my dad was a cop, my mom was a cop, my grandpa was a cop, things like that. And then the half, and the reason I say that this is a half is because I think it goes more into 3, is because you think it's a cool job, right? Like, oh, I seen it on TV, and I feel like that kind of goes into the Napoleon complex a little bit. But those are literally the 4.5 reasons why people become police officers.
That's great. I like that. I'm gonna use that. I hope you didn't copyright that, because I'm stealing it.
I got it. You got to hear it first.
Hey guys, so what we're gonna do a little differently tonight is we're gonna move into our interrogation room. The thing that we're gonna do differently tonight is AJ and I actually have some questions. 2 questions. He has a question. I have a question that we're going to ask our listeners, because we want to know. We want to hear from you guys, and so reach out to us on our DMs or whatever it may be, and answer the question however, and we'll talk about it on the next podcast. But we want to hear from you guys. This podcast can't be great, which is what we want it to be, unless we listen to our listeners. And so, if we're not listening to the people that are listening to us, then this podcast is pointless. So, AJ, I'll let you go with the first question that you have for our listeners, and then I'll follow up with the second.
Absolutely. So my question to the listeners is this: due to the current climate of policing, all the hot topic issues, police officers shooting unarmed minorities, and, whether it's the current shooting or one you heard about in the past, what is one thing that you suggest us as police officers could do or change to make this profession better for both us and the community?
Excellent. That's a great question. And Billy, don't we have an email address now for the podcast?
ITSNEEDEDpodcast@gmail.com.
ITSNEEDEDpodcast@gmail.com, and kudos to the Savage again for doing it. So email your questions to itsneededpodcast@gmail.com, or you can slide in our DM and just hit us up on there. Either or, we'll pick a few to discuss. My question for our listeners is almost along the lines of the same question that AJ had, is how could we improve upon this podcast and Breaking Barriers United and doing what we're doing? I think we've discussed a lot of what we're doing already and what we stand for, but how can we improve? We always want to improve. So how can we do it better? I mean, it's very, very simple question, but I think we can get a lot out of it. So that's my question. That's AJ's questions. Again, email us your answers. It's neededpodcast@gmail.com, or slide in our DM on our Instagram accounts.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind, when even if you're debating on answering this question, if you're kind of on the fence, like I'm not sure if I want to comment, do they really care? You're reaching out to two current police officers who have the ears of a lot of police officers worldwide. So your question could be heard by a lot of police officers and could help change policing on a worldwide basis. So don't be afraid, even if you think it's stupid, even if you think it's minor, like send us those questions, send us those responses just to help us, right? Like God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? Like we're listening. This is our opportunity to listen to you guys. So let's hear it.
Hey, I appreciate that. And like AJ said, please do that. It's going to help us out.
I got one more funny story I can share.
Go ahead. I want to hear it.
It's killing me. So
go ahead.
This actually is a little funnier than the other one. Okay. So here in the area that I work, if you're a police officer, you could have your driver's license say the police headquarters address instead of your address, right?
Yeah.
So that way people can't look you up, get your home address and all that, right?
Oh, that's pretty cool, actually.
It is, it's a huge safety thing for us, right? And a lot of officers do that. So when I first became a police officer, I was a police officer at this small town, and someone told me, they're like, hey, AJ, since you're a police officer, you could have like a secret address. I'm like, what? I'm like, that's crazy. They're like, yeah, just take your badge and your police ID down to the BMV and they'll change everything for you. So I'm like, I was kind of skeptical, but you know what? I need to renew my license anyway. So I go down there. I'm talking to the lady. I'm talking to her and I'm like, hey, by the way, I'm a cop. I like whisper to her, like, I'm a cop. And she goes, oh, do you need the address for him? And I'm like, bet. Yep, need the address for him. So she hands it to me. I review it real quick, and it has the address of the main department in the area where I work, right? So I'm like, okay, that's probably like the generic address everybody uses, whatever. Sign a piece of paper. Boom, she takes my picture, changes my driver's license. I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, this is cool, right? Like, this ain't my address. Like, this is sweet, right?
Yeah.
So about 1.5 years passes, all right? So now I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back through the process to work for the department that I currently work for and that I wanted to work for at that time. So I go through the process and, they do this thorough background investigation and I get the call. They're like, hey, you're accepted into the academy. I'm super pumped, right? So like, all right, just so you know, the day before the academy, we're going to bring you all in. We're going to talk to you, kind of give you a taste of what the academy's like. That way you kind of know what you're getting into. So I'm like, finna be a breeze. Like I'm already already went through a police academy. Yeah. Like I'm good, right? So we walk in, we got our suits and it's like low stress, right? Like ain't nobody yelling, but you can kind of see you messing with pit bulls. They just ain't growling and barking.
You can see that tension,
right? Oh yeah. So I'm like, all right, like I'm cool though, right? I'm calm. People are getting yelled at because they're not, or people start to get yelled at because they're not addressing the chief as ma'am or as chief, right? Because the chief is talking to us.
Yeah.
So they would stand up and then go, I think, and they're like, why aren't you starting the sentence with ma'am or chief? And I'm sitting here laughing in my head, right? Like,
know this game.
Better be a breeze. Like I'm not worried about this. So then all of a sudden the lieutenant walks up to the chief, kind of whispers in her ear. They look around and they point in my direction. So I'm like,
I know they ain't looking at me.
Somebody beside me is in trouble, right? Because I ain't do that.
I ain't do that. I'm perfect.
I'm perfect. I know what I'm doing. Y'all about to get yelled at. So then the lieutenant walks over to like the main drill sergeant, right? He says something to him. They kind of point in my direction again. So I'm like, well, hold on. I hope it ain't me, right? Like the guy to my left already got yelled at.
Yeah.
The guy to my right, he seemed kind of squared away.
Process of elimination. They getting to me.
Listen, all of a sudden, the drill instructor runs over, grabs the mic, and he goes, Johnson, stand up. So I'm like, oh, snap. So I stand up. I snap to attention. I'm like, sir, yes, sir. And he goes, do you live at such and such, such? And I'm like, oh, no. So I go, sir, no, sir. And he goes, well, why did your driver's license say it? So I'm like, okay, how do I explain this as short as possible?
But to get my message across.
Right, without sounding like cocky or arrogant. So like I freeze and I'm like, sir, so then all of a sudden these drill instructors are surrounding me, they're yelling at me. So I'm like, hey, same exact story, right? Like you said, in my head, I'm like, I'm fired. 100% I'm fired before I'm hired, right? So finally the drill instructors leave. The chief walks up to me, things kind of calm down, and we're getting ready to do a run, right? We're getting ready to go outside. So people are like kind of jogging outside to do this run. We're in suits, all right? Yeah. Keep that in mind. So I'm kind of walking. The chief walks up to me. She goes, Johnson? And I'm like, ma'am, yes, ma'am. And she goes, you don't live at such and such, do you? And I'm like, ma'am, no, ma'am. And she goes, you're going to get this changed before you start this academy, right? And I'm like, ma'am, yes, ma'am. So it gave me hope, right? Like, okay, boom, I'm not getting fired. Man, I'm walking out the doors and the main drill instructor goes, I'm so ashamed of you. I can't believe you would do that. It gets better. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm fired 100%. I'm fired.
Go.
So I had a buddy who was in the academy. Okay. Cause we like, kind of stacked the academy classes.
Yeah.
So I had a friend who was in the academy. So I'm like, let me call him and kind of get a feel for some things. Right. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So I actually ended up running into him. And I'm like, he's like, hey, you're starting the academy soon. How do you feel? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, man, I'm nervous. He goes, why? I go, I just don't know, man. I got a bad feeling. He goes, dude, you don't got nothing to worry about. And I'm like, bet. I'm like, well, why do you say that? He goes, because some idiot showed up with his driver's license that said our address. Like, you're gonna tear him apart as soon as they walk in.
Like, thanks, bro. Appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate it.
It was all bad. I was just like, oh my goodness, I'm getting fired.
Are you serious, bro?
Yeah,
oh man. To all of our future academy prospects, hey, have fun, y'all. But I can tell y'all one thing. Good luck. I'm glad I ain't doing it again. Oh man.
Hey, 2 was enough.
Oh my goodness. Hey, so really quickly, guys, briefly, the one last thing I'm gonna say is I do want to thank again Officer Daniels for being on the podcast last week, man. Really appreciate you, man. I was a true honor to have you on. And while we're talking about special guests, I do want you guys to realize, like, not every guest that we bring on this podcast is going to be a police officer. We're going to bring people from the community on this podcast because we want to hear, and not the people that are pro cop. Not the ones that are just fans of police officers. We're going to bring the ones on here that may not like police officers or may have some questions about things, reasons the way we do it. And so I will tell you that everybody that we do bring on this podcast, we do have personal relationships with in some way or shape or form. But that's important for you guys to know because that allows me and AJ to have honest conversations with them. They knew these people, like, for example, a lot of these people we bring on, they knew me before I was a police officer or an AJ. And so they know that they're going to get an uncut answer or a real answer from me and AJ, and it's vice versa. I've known these guys before, whatever position they're in, and so now it's almost like one of those things. Like if you go back, you want to, like, back in the day, or you with your friends, like, dog, I know your mama, dog. You ain't gonna act funny with me. I know your mama.
Hey, bro, listen.
Don't make me call your mama. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's the type of relationship we have with some of these people. And so it helps us be honest and real because they're not going to put on a front for us. We're not going to put on a front for them. We're going to have open and honest dialogue. And so my man AJ's taking his bite out of this donut. We're going to end. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to have a new segment that we're going to start doing. It's going to be very brief, but it's going to be called Mythbusters.
That's going to be a good one.
The Mythbusters. So I think AJ actually has a myth for tonight. What Mythbusters is there's a lot of myths out there about police officers. And so we're going to state one of those myths, and then we're going to either debunk that myth or say, nope, that's not a myth, but that is a reality. So AJ, what's the first myth tonight?
The first myth tonight is why do police officers turn their lights and sirens on just to get through red lights and then turn them off once they get through them?
Woo! All right. I used to always talk about those officers. I used to always like, man, those dudes, they use the law and their power to their authority. All they do is they in a rush and they just want to get through a light and stuff like that. And so they just use it to their advantage. I would have to say and venture to say that's a myth. I have had to turn my lights on a few times going through lights and sirens per the vehicle code, obviously, because there is a vehicle code that governs that when we can turn on our lights and sirens and stuff. But a lot of times what will happen is you'll go to a call for service. For example, we may be going to a traffic collision, and our standard protocol is we're not going to send multiple units to a traffic collision with their lights and sirens on. It's just not going to happen just because, for multiple reasons I'll get into on another episode. But a lot of times, if it's an unknown traffic collision, meaning we don't know if there's any injuries, they're going to send one of us code 3, which is lights and sirens, because if there is something serious that's going on, we need to get there quickly. Now, a lot of times what will happen is we'll get information as a police officer through our dispatch that will say, hey, you know what? There's no more injuries, or there's no injuries. Somebody arrived on scene. Fire department got there first, or your partner is already on scene. There's no injuries, or whatever it may be. And so we'll go through a light, shining code 3 or whatever, and then soon we'll get that information. As soon as you get through it, we'll end up turning our lights off. And it's the worst feeling. It's the suckiest feeling, because you feel like everybody's looking at you like, oh, this fool just went through the red light just because he has somewhere to be. But that's actually not true. I mean, there's so many times. There's other different reasons, man. But like I said, a lot of times we get information that stops us from going with an emergency response. And the reason for that, guys, is because if we continue with our emergency response, if we continue an emergency response and the emergency is over, and I end up getting in a car accident and hitting somebody or killing somebody, they're going to come back to me and say, why were you going code 3 to this emergency that was no longer an emergency anymore? So that's why we have to shut down, guys. We have to shut our lights and sirens down, not because I was just trying to get through the red light because I'm trying to get that hot donut that you got, but it's really because I got shut down. I shut myself down because there's no longer an emergency. There's no reason for me to go code 3.
Yeah. Good answer. So it's busted.
There it is. Busted. Myth busted, y'all. Myth busted.
Wrap for that one. You got one?
Bam. I don't have one tonight, but I will have one for you next. Oh, actually, no. I do got one, actually. You ready for this? Do police officers like donuts?
You said do police officers like donuts? I mean, I don't think so.
What is that? You got some keto bread? Is that some keto wheat bread you got?
We're not going to talk about what I'm eating right now.
I'll debunk that myth. I'll be honest. I love some donuts. I could kill. You know what? Real quick, last story. I know we got to go for time, but last story, man. Somebody said I went to the doctors about a year ago. They said I was pre-diabetic, right? So I'm like, oh shoot, I'm pre-diabetic. I'm only like 175 pounds. Brother got about to have diabetes, so I'm like nervous. So I start eating really good. I start eating broccoli and chicken for like 6 months straight. Go back to the hospital 6 months later, get rechecked, check my A1C. They're like, oh, you're not pre-diabetic no more. What's the brother do? I went straight to Krispy Kreme's. Hey, go ahead and give me a dozen of those. Because I'm gonna need that one. I'm gonna need that one. Oh, is that strawberry? Give me that one too. So I was turning up on some donuts, and so your brother might be pre-diabetic again. But that note, guys, it was a great episode. AJ, it's always a pleasure having you, my brother. And again, listeners, go on to our Instagram pages and vote on who had the ugliest sweater tonight. We need that vote.
And our worldwide listeners, by the way.
Oh yeah, worldwide. For those of you guys that don't know, we are in 10 countries: Germany, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, just to name a few. Canada, okay. Our brothers in Canada. We out here. So vote. Your vote counts, guys. Your vote counts. And so we're going to take our campaign elsewhere, y'all. I think I got it, man. Y'all see my lights glistening in the sky. You'll have a picture of the Savage on there. Please vote. But again, guys, thanks again for this time. We love you guys. You guys truly mean the world to us, and we will holler at you guys on our next podcast. Thanks again, guys, and take care.